A long time ago, a family sat around the fireplace in their home. The golden light from the fire filled the room. The mother and father laughed at something their oldest daughter said. The girl was 17 years old, much older than her little brother and sister, who were 5 and 6. An old woman, their grandmother, sat in the warmest corner knitting. A baby, the youngest child, smiled at the fire from its small bed. This family was happy, even though they lived in the worst place in New England. Their home was high up in the White Mountains, where the wind blew hard all year. They lived in a very cold and dangerous spot. Sometimes stones from the mountain above would roll down and wake them at night. No other families lived near them, but they were never lonely. They loved each other and often had visitors. Their house was near an important road that connected the White Mountains to the St. Lawrence River. Travelers passing by in wagons often stopped at the house for water and a friendly chat. People walking across the mountains would sometimes come in to share a hot meal. If the weather was too wild, some travelers would spend the night with them. The family was kind to everyone who stopped by, offering a warmth that money could not buy. One December evening, the wind howled down the mountain. It seemed to knock on their door. The family fell silent, and then they heard a real knock. The oldest girl opened the door and found a young man standing in the dark. The grandmother placed a chair by the fire for him, and the oldest daughter gave him a shy smile. The baby lifted its little arms toward him. "This fire is just what I needed," the young man said. "The wind has been in my face for 2 hours." The father took the young man's bag. "Are you going to Vermont?" he asked. "Yes, to Burlington," the man replied. "I wanted to reach the valley tonight, but when I saw the light in your window, I decided to stop and enjoy your fire for a while." As the young man sat by the fire, they all heard a sound outside. It sounded like heavy footsteps, as if someone was running down the mountain. The father looked out the window. "The old mountain has thrown another stone at us," he said, smiling. "We've lived here for years, so we know how to deal with it. I've made a safe place outside in case the mountain ever falls on us." As the father spoke, the mother made a hot meal for the guest. The young man talked openly with the family like they were old friends. He was usually careful with people, but something made him share his biggest secret. He said he wanted to be famous one day so people would remember him. "So far I have done nothing," the young man said. "If I disappear tomorrow, no one will ask, 'Who was he? Where did he go?' But I can't die until I have made my mark on the world." The family smiled at him. "You're laughing at me," the man said, holding the oldest daughter's hand. "You think my dream is silly?" The girl, shy, turned red and whispered, "It's better to sit here by the fire and be happy, even if no one remembers us." The father stared into the fire. "There's truth in what the young man says. It would have been nice to have a farm in the valley, somewhere safe from the mountain. I would have been respected by my neighbors, and when I died, people would know I lived a good life." "You see," the young man cried, "we all want to be remembered. Some want just a gravestone, while others want to be famous. But we all want people to remember us." The young man added more wood to the fire, and the light fell on the family. It lit up the father's strong arms, the mother's gentle smile, the young man's proud face, and the shy daughter. It warmed the old grandmother, still knitting in the corner. She looked up and said, Old people have secrets too. She told them her secret. She had made her funeral clothes years ago, and they were her best clothes since her wedding. She was afraid she wouldn't be buried in them when she died. The young man stared into the fire and said, "Old and young, we all think about death and what we leave behind. But what do sailors think when their ship sinks, knowing they will be buried in the ocean where no one can find them?" Just then, a loud sound like the roar of the ocean shook the house. The family knew what it was. "The slide! The slide!" they shouted. They ran out of the house into the secret hiding place the father had built. The whole side of the mountain came rushing down like a waterfall of earth. But just before it hit their house, the slide split in two and passed on either side. Everything in the path of the slide was destroyed, except for their little house. The next morning, smoke was still coming from the chimney and the fire was still burning. It looked like the family had just stepped out for a walk. Some people believed there was a stranger with them that night, but no one ever knew who he was. His name and life remained a mystery, and his body was never found.